Hello everyone, Tanya Oy here. I just wanted to do a video on showing different perspectives of facial features. I will start with eyes. After eyes, I will do nose, and then finally mouth. For eyes, straight on. Start with like a football shape, a little taller at the top, a little flatter at the bottom. Add in an eyelid, and then I usually add in that kind of, you see the thickness of the skin on the bottom of the eye. After that, I will add in kind of the eyeball. Will not be a complete circle because it's covered up partially by the lid and by the upper lid and lower lid. Then I'll drop in the black part of the eye. Once again, not a full circle because part of it is covered. And I'll kind of color that in dark, leaving a glowing shine spot. Then for the colored part of the eye, I go to making little lines to show that texture coming off of it. Depending on the color of the eye will depend on how dark those lines are. And then I'll outline that with a line, because if you were to look closely at an eye, you would see that that is there. And then I would do a little shading in the corners of the eye just to show that it's not as white as the white part of the eye. And you would blend that in, and you could soften that with your finger or do a blend or however, whatever technique you're using. And I usually pop a little line down here, brings in a little shading of the eye socket. Lastly, I'll add in lashes. Don't overdo it. Just a few to kind of give whether it's a guy or a girl, and spread them out. Bottom lashes are more spread out and shorter. Top lashes are a little longer. And that's how I do an eye straight on. If I were to do an eye from a side view, I would start with this shape, bringing in the lid, and then bring in the eyeball, which is inset a little bit, and then once again the bottom part of the eye. And then you could round things out a little bit and clean them up however you want to see fit. And now I would, when I do my coloring, the dark in this part right here, create the darkness of the eye. Once again, doing that same part for the color. And you could use different pencils to get different darknesses as well. And bring in that line of the color. You're just seeing everything from the side perspective. This is by no means anything fancy. Bring in the lashes how you would see them. And same thing on the bottom, how they'll change direction. Something like that. Another perspective that you might have is maybe the eye is closed. So you're just drawing in the eye socket lightly and bring in the lid. And then you see lashes. And you might show the thickness of that. That line might thicken a little bit as that comes in. And then you're left with this piece, and then maybe do a little shading to show the roundedness and how depending on how the light is hitting, to show the roundedness of that lid. And then up here would be your brows. Something like that, okay? So that's how you would do an eye. If I'm going to do noses, then straight on, I would come in with something like this, kind of little line, and then a little circle attached to that line. And then I might come in with the nostrils. And I wouldn't draw that all the way up. Let your eye kind of create that illusion a little bit of how that would go depending on the shape and the length of the nose and so forth. But that would be straight on. If I'm going to draw a nose from the side perspective, I might draw it more something like this, where you bring in a little bit of the shading of the nose, and then of course building in that nostril. Now that's kind of a pointy nose. I might rework that a little bit. until you get it something that you like. Okay, and that would be more of a side profile of a nose. If I were to draw the nose, maybe looking up into the nose, you might see more of the shape of the nostrils. You know, depending on how you're looking at it. And I might see this little attachment here, and I might see the top of the nose and how it comes in. That looks kind of like a pig. Sorry about that. But how this might come in something more. I'm just drawing this from my brain, not from a picture. Something more like that. Maybe seeing a little bit more of the nose holes and not as thick of the skin, which would then lead into the mouth as you come in, the top lip and so forth. Okay, so just kind of a quick overview of, you know, this might be seeing something more in through here too. Okay, lastly, mouth. I would start with, if it's closed, starting with this line, and I kind of thicken the middle of it. Top lip is usually a little thinner, bottom lip a little thicker. Notice I didn't create connections because a lot of times your shadowing is up underneath the lip and it just kind of eases into the face. Okay, and then you might add in the textures coming off of that lip, the lines. And this is just a super fast how to approach the basics, not detailed drawings by any means. If I were to do a mouth that's open, I would start with the inside of the lips, that open part. Then you've got the top lip, once again a little thinner than what your bottom lip would be. And then you would add in teeth. I always start with the top two middle teeth, kind of rounded rectangles, and the teeth progressively get shorter and disappear as you go back. And sometimes you might see the gums. You can draw those in, and you'd color those in a little darker. Depends on the person. Once again, you practice with your looking. And a little bit of the bottom teeth, and if you see the tongue, might pop that in there as well. Okay, so this is how you would create an open mouth. Now maybe you want to have a side perspective of a mouth. So I would start with the lips, kind of rounding it out a little bit. And then you get this line where they come together. And then you get the bottom lip, which kind of ties in to the chin. And I might shrink up that top lip a little bit. And which would come into the nose, would be coming in here. Side view of the nose. Okay, but you can see how the lips start to come together. And then once again, you could pop in a little bit of your shading to kind of give some fullness and texture to those lips. And that is how you get 3 different perspectives of each of those.